Hello, healthy people, and welcome back to Organelle. Today, white blood cell count. This is our second ever biomarker breakdown, and through it, we're going to explore the nature of white blood cell count, the role it plays in our body, and of course, what we can do about it. As always, I'm Xavier Greenhalgh, and joining me is none other than the Organelle digital health platform's leading practitioner, Lionel Godwin. So, without further ado, let's all take the next step on our health journeys. Here we are with biomarker breakdown number 2. Lionel, today we're covering white cell counts, whereas in the first episode we did red. So, to kick us off, what is a white blood cell count? And why does it matter?
Uh, so a white cell count is known as leukocytes or a leukocyte count, and it refers to the number of white blood cells present in a given volume of blood. It's measured as part of our complete blood count, and it provides really valuable information about the immune system's activity and the response to infections or other diseases.
Okay, so we found out last week that red blood cells are important for carrying oxygen around the body and why it's important to have a certain volume of those within your blood. What do white blood cells do?
So white blood cells, we bring it back to the lungs again, if you like. They play a crucial role in our immune responses, as I said earlier, and they really help us fight against respiratory infections and lung disease, which is really important. Obviously, they also help identify and destroy any pathogens, and they also remove foreign substances. And regulate inflammation in the lungs as well. We've spoken previously about inflammation, and white cells play a really important part in removing any potential inflammation in your lungs. You know, an abnormal white cell count can indicate that you've got a respiratory infection or an inflammatory condition, particularly around the lung.
These sound way cooler than red blood cells. Never thought I'd hear search and destroy describing a biological function.
Yeah, no, they
So okay,
do.
we've
That's
said that
exactly
those
what they
are
do.
they're really so they're a really important part of lung health. Do they play a bigger role in the bodily ecosystem, or are
Oh,
they kind of
absolutely.
exclusively focused on the lungs?
Well, so they're a key component of our immune system, obviously, and that's the primary purpose of a white cell. So, you know, they defend the body against infections and pathogens, as I referred to earlier. They remove those foreign substances and any abnormal cells too within the body. They try and get rid of any of those abnormal cells. You know, they you can imagine, for want of a better description, they're almost actively um, how would I describe it? They're actively patrolling our bloodstream and our tissues, and they're identifying and eliminating those pathogens that I referred to, and they're using various mechanisms such as surrounding and then destroying these pathogens and various other uh, bacterial infections within our system. They're like a little army, if you like, of seek and destroy missiles that get out there and really try and protect our immune system and our organs.
So I take it we should obviously have as many of these as possible and create the most powerful army of all time inside our bloodstream.
Yeah, I'm not sure that we want them a lot of them all of the time. We only want a high amount of white blood cells when we're dealing with fighting infections, whether it be bacterial, viral, fungal, um, or we're dealing with some inflammatory disease or tissue damage or autoimmune disorders. So we don't you know if we've got a high level of white cells, it could be indicative of some chronic illness within the body, autoimmune diseases, leukemias, or bone marrow disorders, and things like that. So it's very important that when we are getting our bloods done, that if there is an overabundance of white cells, that we understand exactly why, because there could be an underlying cause of those excess white cells that needs to be addressed from a chronic illness perspective.
I see. So our body only really produces these when it needs them. So if we get a blood test done and we see that there's a ton of them, we're like, oh, my body's fighting something. Should figure out what it is.
Yeah, yeah. It's the same that applies when we've got too few of them as well. There could be an underlying reason why we've got too few. Is our body being overwhelmed by a blood or bone marrow issue, or an infection, or a viral, or virus, or a pathogen, and unable to cope? So it's really, really important that we have a really good understanding of what white blood cells are, what role they're playing, and is there a reason why they are either too high or too low.
Okay, so we know that we want them in a certain range. We don't want them too high, too low. What should our white blood cell count be?
Yeah, the white blood cell count for adult males and females is between 4 and 11 of those uh, uh, white blood cell counts per microliter.
Okay, so would we be optimally healthy, say, if we were around like 7?
Yes, very
We aim for 7 white blood cells per microliter.
fair.
Okay,
Well, yeah,
so
7,000 per microliter.
ah,
Yes,
right, 7,000. That's
per,
an
per
important caveat there. Not
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
okay, so let's talk about how we can get ourselves into that reference range if we're outside of it, or improve where we are in that reference range if we are inside of it. So, what can we do if we're low to get ourselves higher? What can we do if we're high to get ourselves lower?
Yeah, so if we're low, I like to look at making sure that we're getting really adequate vitamin C, vitamin D, vitamin E, B12, iron, and zinc. They are really important contributors. Um, and it's if it's high, we want to make sure that we're trying to get a really good balanced diet. We want to make sure we're focusing on, as many fruits and vegetables as we can, whole grains, lean proteins, and healthy fats make a big difference in helping bring down a higher white cell count. Um, Again, vitamin A, vitamin C, vitamin E, zinc all play a significant role as well in balancing out our white cell count. Selenium's another mineral that also play. Selenium is another mineral that plays a significant role in reducing higher white cell counts.
Out of all of those things, are there any that are common deficiencies that might be like the most accurate first step to take?
Zinc's very common deficiency in a lot of people. Vitamin E can sometimes be another one that's people can be quite deficient in.
Does that? I'm just trying to reverse engineer in my head, right? Because we know that these white cells are really important for fighting off diseases and such. And we know that the count of them is really important because we want to have a lot of them when we're fighting stuff. And you're saying that zinc is something that commonly is missing in our bodies that we need to produce these white blood cells. But I've never really heard it said that when you're sick, you should start taking more zinc into your diet.
Haven't you?
Usually
Um,
it's turmeric or something.
No, look, minerals obviously play a really important part in our immune system responses, and zinc's just one of those ones that generally people can be deficient in. Not generally, some people who are particularly unwell can be deficient in. Um, but again, that's true of most disease. It's generally a nutritional deficiency that will contribute to most illness or disease, which is why we uh, pontificate so much around trying to get a really good balanced diet that includes all of your vegetables, grains, nuts and seeds, fruits, and good sources of fat.
White blood cell count sounds like a terrific thing to optimize for if you're looking for that long term health and that predictive and preventative approach. Thank you so much for your time today, Lionel. I think we've given the listener plenty of information on that. If they want to find out more, they can go to organelle.com and get a blood test done.
Excellent. Good place to finish.
Fantastic. Till next time.